Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Hump-Day Hockey. I'm your host, L.A. Kingsdave, and with me, as always, is Brittany, a.k.a. Pit Pins Pats, and Ryan, a.k.a. Golf for Miami.
How's it going?
Happy Hump Day to everyone. Tonight, we'll be discussing last night and tonight's games. We'll be going over big news on the GM front as Hextall gets a promotion in Philly. We got Hitchcock in St. Louis being re-signed, and of course Peter Laviolette yesterday being hired by Nashville. Also tonight, our question for the listeners, which comes thanks courtesy to Janetta, talking about Peter Laviolette's ownership of a turtle who now has a Twitter account.
Oh
So
gosh, I need to follow
the
that.
question is, what's an animal that's best suited for your favorite player?
All right, should we answer that ourselves now and then
Now we'll give everybody a little bit of time here to answer that.
all right.
Just reviewing the scoreboard, obviously Pittsburgh game just ended, and that was 4-2 Pittsburgh. They now take a 3-1 lead in that series. And in the AHL, St. John's beat Norfolk 2-1. So
Is that the only AHL game
yeah,
tonight?
it's a light schedule tonight all around hockey.
All right.
There's no European. The World Championships start tomorrow, so that's going to be exciting. But I don't really have any other scores right now. So just starting off, I'm going to jump right into Boston and Montreal last night.
Oh gosh, that game was fun.
That was really fun. I think nobody's disagreeing, but this has been pretty much the best series of this
Yeah,
round. Obviously, when you have two legendary teams who have played each other so many times and hate each other, you knew it was going to be exciting. I think
yeah,
that the Montreal playing them as tough as they have has been a little bit surprising, seeing as they escaped with the win in Boston. And then last night, just basically shutting Boston down for two periods was rather impressive. What were your thoughts on that game if you watched it?
I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys talk about this one since I was playing in my second intramural playoff game last night and did not get to see this one.
Okay. Well, I was mostly impressed with the Canadians out hitting Boston because Boston obviously is usually the more physical of the two teams. I don't know if that's just a stat skew thanks to the home scorekeeper or not, but that was a bit
mhm.
surprising to see. And just as somebody watching it, it's definitely more noticeable the physicality that the Canadians had as opposed to the first two games.
Yeah. I noticed that too, and it was just kind of it was fun to watch the Bruins get frustrated by hits because we've been there as the Penguins have been there. We've been frustrated by the Bruins, and it's just now you're getting a taste of your own medicine. God damn it! And I remember watching the game and I was just like, oh my gosh, Harry Price is just on it. And Tuca, it's like if you Tuca gets frustrated, then all of the Bruins play terribly. I was talking about this with my coworker today, and he mentioned yeah, if you Tuca is the heart and soul of that team. If Tuca gets frustrated and flustered, then the whole team is frustrated and flustered. If Tuca is playing well, then everyone's playing well.
For sure.
And I just remember watching, I think it was Dale Weiss's goal, and it was just like, what? You're Dale Weiss. You shouldn't be pulling moves like that. It was that goal was just gorgeous.
Well, not only that goal, but Subban's goal as well. There was two breakaways that really broke the back for Boston early on, and then it was just defensive breakdowns.
Mhm.
Obviously, Subban coming out of the penalty box there, but yeah, Weiss's goal was nice. So a little bit surprising to see them give away breakaways like that when they are one of the best defensive teams in hockey.
Yeah, I was really surprised with that.
I don't know if you had any other points to make on that series, but
Uh,
No, not really.
I think one thing a lot of people were talking about today was Milan Lucic spearing Immelman
Again.
again.
What is with Milan Lucic being like such a dick bag?
I think at this point it's just his brand of who he is, so he's kind of just living up to it.
Yeah.
Un- That's the only thing I have. I have no other ideas as to why he would be just an overall not nice person to so many different people.
Well,
Yeah, I
it
just don't.
obviously works for him. I mean, he's very effective at what he does.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it gets into people's heads pretty easily. That's true.
And the thing is, he can score too, so it's hard to not see him in the lineup and get in a lot of minutes when he's doing it on both ends.
That's true.
Unlike some other guys that are a little bit chippy like that. I just think there's a difference between being chippy and doing childish things, like a couple nights ago when Corey Perry sprayed water into Jeff Carter's glove. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it
But
was.
Yeah, and they're like really good
it's not
friends
something
too.
cheap necessarily. It's his brand of being, a pest, but I mean, I know Perry has hit somebody in the nuts with his stick before, but it seems to be a reoccurring thing with Lucic that you don't see
Mhm.
from many guys, and you wonder at what point is the league going to do something about it.
I would hope sooner rather than later, but obviously they haven't done anything about it yet, so I
If any
don't
of you have
know.
ever been speared, you know it's not very fun.
No, no.
Well, moving on to Chicago and Minnesota last night, we had Game 3 at home for Minnesota. Obviously, Briz got the shutout, although he didn't face a ton of shots. And then the Wild ended up taking over that third period and just dominating.
Yes.
So I don't know if Ryan wants to talk about the breakdown for the Blackhawks there.
Really not much to break down. When you look at the overall game, we just it didn't look like we really wanted to compete. Either we felt like for some reason the Wild were going to come back home and lay down for us on their own ice, or we were just tired, or obviously the Hawks are snake bitten just a little bit on the first road game of every series. I think the last 9 series we are 0 for 9 in the
Yeah.
first road game of the series, whether that be game 1 or game three, depending on who has home ice. And so I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's just some kind of pattern with the Hawks and um, some kind of mentality that they get into when it comes to the first road game of a series, that they feel like they need to take it a little easier so that they can save themselves for that second road game and try to put it on a little harder or what. But yeah, they definitely did not look good at all. They didn't really possess the puck in Minnesota's end for really any extended amount of time. It didn't really get too many very high quality scoring chances the whole game, and Minnesota just completely outplayed us. I, I can't really put it on Corey Crawford either. I know the score was 4-0, but eventually when Minnesota's getting the quality chances that they're getting and getting out shooting us, I believe, eventually they're going to start scoring. And on the first goal that the Wild scored, I don't know if either of you saw it. It was just
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. Like
it was
I couldn't
amazing
even
pass.
I couldn't even
Oh,
be
who scored
mad.
it?
I
Was it
believe
Brandling's
it.
goal?
No, it was a saucer pass to Holla.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. It was just absolutely like it was perfect. Landed right on his tape. It was just a nice little taparoo into the net. Uh, I couldn't even be mad. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah, that
So
was a pass from Justin Fontaine, which
yes,
was maybe the prettiest pass we've seen in these playoffs.
yeah, I yeah like I just threw my hands up in the air. You can't do anything about that. So I'm hoping the Hawks can regroup here. I know a lot of fans that on like Reddit and Twitter have said that this is basically the Hawks series, and it's gonna be us in 4, 5, or 6 easily. But with how the Wild have played at home, and obviously Briz is good enough to steal a game or two. I mean, he shut us out last game. It very easily could go to, a hard game 6 or game 7, back on the Hawks home ice, especially if the Hawks continue to play how they played last night. So it's going to be a lot tighter than a lot of people think it was going to be at the outside of the series.
Yeah. What do you think about Matt Cook coming back next game? What do you think he's going to do for the Wild and as a dynamic against the Blackhawks? Do you think they're going to be able to? How do you think they're going to utilize him versus them?
I mean, look at what Matt Cook was able to do in the games he played against the Avalanche, and being able to slow down the Avalanche attack pretty well. Um, he's obviously a physical presence. He's on the ice, and everyone is aware of when he's on the ice. Not just because of, of course, he has those cheap shots every now and then. But he's a really solid shutdown guy. He's going to give the Wild a lot of penalty killing minutes, and he's going to be able to help ensure that the Hawks don't get too many goals on the power play. Um, he could be an X factor in this series coming back. You never know what he's going to be able to do to shut us down, and him coming back scares me even more, really. And it's not because I'm afraid he's going to hurt Taves or Kane or Hossa or someone like that. I'm scared that getting him back on top of the fact that the Wild just won Game 3 it's going to be another, just another little jolt of momentum in the Wild's corner, especially since he has fresh legs going into Game 4. So, and if the Wild can come out and take Game 4, it's anyone's series going to the last 3.
Yeah, Matt Cook, like when he was on the Penguins, he was one of our best penalty killers, and just he was an energy line, and he'd go out there, he'd hit, and he'd like bring energy to our team, and he'd slow down the other team. It was just he had a great presence that is very underrated, and people don't really notice because all they think of Matt Cook when they think of Matt Cook, they're just like, oh yeah, he's dirty, blah 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 blah. But he actually is valuable to a team, and I really hope that Minnesota warms up to him, because I know a lot of fans still haven't.
Well, I think it's hard to warm up to somebody who has a history like he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, there's players even on my team like Dustin Brown that it's hard to warm up to them as a player, regardless of what they do off the ice, when you feel like what they do is so borderline. And with Dustin Brown, it's borderline, and you still love him playing hard. And when you lead the league in hits like he does a lot of the time, you expect something, possibly borderline to happen. But with a Matt Cook, he's just done a lot of dirty things. So I think that that's kind of a difference. Reckless, maybe, is a better word. Anyway, moving on. Tonight's game was Penguins versus Rangers. Obviously, Penguins won, but the Rangers were finally able to get a couple goals on Fleury, ending his shutout streak. Chris Kreider returned, and I don't think he got any points, but he was definitely active tonight. Let me check just to make sure. Yeah, no, he didn't get any points. So what were your thoughts on that game, and how much of it did you watch, Brittany?
I actually watched very little because when I did watch, the Rangers scored, and when I was in the kitchen either cooking or doing something else, the Penguins scored. So everyone who was watching the game just like was like, "You have to stay there." So I didn't watch too much of it. I watched Gino's goal, and oh my God, that goal was just great. It was the first one I think that they scored, and it was just
Yeah, it was just a
mine.
ridiculous backhand.
Yeah, oh, I love Gino's backhand. It's so good.
Well,
And
his pass to set up Kunitz as well was really nice. That was also a
mhm.
backhanded pass right there.
And like this series, a lot of people were saying like keep on they still knock on Fleury saying he's a bad goalie, but he's only let in 5 goals in 4 games, and I think that's pretty great
I, I
considering his history.
I said it last podcast. I don't think playoff Fleury's here. I don't think he's going to be here either.
Yeah, I hope he's not.
I, he's playing well outside of game 4 at Columbus.
Yeah.
He's been playing really well, and Bilesma basically yelled at him after that game in the press, and I
Yeah,
think
he kind of yeah,
he's
he
come
threw
around after that.
Fleury under he threw him under the bus kind of saying like, yeah, that was a stupid play.
Yep.
And I think he needed to hear that, I guess, because after that he's just been playing balls to the wall pretty much.
Yep. I agree.
And, 2 back-to-back shutouts on back-to-back nights. Like, not just, like, most people can't do that.
I think there was a stat I saw that said he's only the sixth goaltender to do that in the last 30 years.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, they showed that, I think.
Another amazing stat was from tonight's game where they show that the Rangers are now, well, when they put the stat up, it was 0 for 34, but I think they're 0 for 35 now on the power play in the playoffs,
hmm
which is second
Well,
worst all time.
I
But
think,
the other top three teams that have gone 0 for 30 or worse in the playoffs all won the cup, which was Los Angeles in 2012, Boston in 2011, both went 0 for 30. And then the Ducks went 0 for 36 in 2007. So
oh,
It's
even though
been
everybody's giving
predicted.
them a hard time, when you look at the other guys that have done that, they've all gone on to win the cup. But I don't think that when you're down 3-1 to Penguins going back to Pittsburgh, that's gonna end up
yeah.
working out so well for you.
I saw, like, a few days ago, it was before game 3, in the last 2 years, the Rangers power play is like 7 for 80. So now it's probably like 7 for 85 or 7 for like 87 or something like that. That's just stupid terrible.
And that's through a couple different coaches, so it's not just Alain Vigneault. There's
Yeah,
obviously just their guns are not getting it done. Obviously, Rick Nash has been terrible in these
yeah.
playoffs.
You
Marty
need to
St.
like
Louis
put
has
him on a
been.
milk box.
What's that?
You need to put him on like a milk carton, like he's missing. Like where is he?
Yeah, I saw somebody had posted something about that they said that he was gone for the last month and that the people of New York were worried about him and were praying for his family. Um, yeah, I mean, if your stars aren't showing up, I actually think, I mean, Lundqvist has not been bad. Their defense hasn't been too bad. But when you're not getting any offensive support, then it doesn't matter anyway. So,
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna use a baseball analogy. It's like the Cubs fans know so far this year. Jeff Samardzija has been pitching just lights out baseball. The other night he pitched 9 innings of shutout baseball and still got the loss, I believe it was. Well, he
Yeah.
definitely didn't get a win. They ended up losing the game because they couldn't score any runs.
I think
You
he
know,
scored their only run too that night.
did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same in hockey. You can have your anchor. I mean, the pitcher is basically the anchor of your baseball team when it comes to making sure you ensure those wins. You can have your anchor of your goalie playing lights out hockey and stopping basically everything that comes at them. But if you can't score goals, you're not going to win. And I know a lot of people say defense and goaltending wins the cup, but there's only so far that can go without getting some goals to go with it.
I mean, there are teams like the Kings who like don't score much, but I guess when they do, it means a lot because their defense is so good. Because they have the what? They have the like lowest goals, uh, like goals per game or something like that.
No, we ended up after we got Gabrick, we've been scoring basically.
Okay.
At the end of the season, we went from second worst in the league to once we got him, I think we jumped up to like 27 or something like that. But in the playoffs, we've been the second highest scoring team. So in Marian Gabrick's leading the NHL in goal scoring in the playoffs. So things turn around sometimes, but obviously that hasn't been the case for New York.
Definitely not.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Anyway, moving on. We don't really have a lot of questions tonight.
No?
No,
What?
we got nothing tonight.
Wow. We must be scaring off our listeners or something.
I don't know. I think
Where
it's
are you,
like
listeners?
finals week for a lot of people.
Well, that's true.
Hockey's
Yeah.
more important.
We do have some answers to our question, though. Chris, Crazy Knucklehead, says Brad Marchand should get an anteater. I don't know exactly what he's inferring with that, but I guess I could see it. Maybe because of the big nose. I'm not really sure.
I think
I think
Brad
with an
Marchand should
anteater,
get
I
a
want to think about
rat.
a long tongue. Well, yeah, but I don't think that a Bruins fan is going to admit to that. So
Yeah, well, um,
we got Twerk for Twerk saying that Marion Hossa should be a unicorn because he's a mythical creature.
No,
no,
God,
he'd be more
no.
like a griffin or something like that.
Griffin is acceptable. I was gonna say grizzly bear.
No, that's Brent Burns. Brent Burns is a grizzly bear.
He's a Yeti.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sasquatch.
We got Jamish the Great says that Kyle Turris should get an owl because he's majestic as fuck.
Huh.
This just
Well,
in, Kyle Turris's new nickname is Hedwig.
is what?
Hedwig from the Potter series. Because he's an owl. Okay,
Oh,
never mind.
all right. Sorry, I have never read those. I should someday.
They're like my favorite books. After The Three Musketeers.
So I don't know who your favorite player's animal should be, but obviously for the Kings, we have Raccoon Jesus in Andre Kopitar. So that would
Yeah.
be fairly fitting. We've also some people have said that Jonathan Quick looks like a spider sometimes, so maybe he should get a tarantula.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Um, I think Oli Mata would be like a Labrador Retriever because he's just so lovable and happy, and he's also like he's got like the sandy color hair that a Labrador Retriever has.
I already said mine, Marion Hossa.
I thought that
Yeah.
was a golden retriever though. Isn't a Labrador retriever black?
There's like golden labs and chocolate labs and black labs. There's
Okay.
yeah, there's a bunch of different labs.
Well, I'm not really sure why Peter Laviolette has a turtle, but he does.
Dude,
And
turtles are awesome.
he was just hired by the Nashville Predators. And Nashville, in their presser for him, was stressing how much he's done for young forwards, generating offense, things like that. Everything that Nashville fans want to hear
Hmm.
after 16 years or whatever of Barry Trotz.
Mhm.
There's a lot of guys on their team. There's some guys like Craig Smith that had a great year this year. I think he had almost 30 goals. Mike Fisher is a decent player. Colin Wilson has not lived up to his first round, draft pick potential as of yet, but what do you guys think he can do with this squad they have right now?
I'm trying to think of who's on the Predators.
I mean, obviously they brought him in because he is Peter Laviolette. I mean, he has experience. He has kind of a winning pedigree. I mean,
He was definitely the best free agent coach out there.
I would agree. Yeah, he definitely. I mean, he definitely was the best free agent coach out there. They wanted to bring in someone who was to show their fan base that they are wanting to go out and they want to compete with the rest of the Central Division. And God help them with that task because the Central Division is going to be loaded for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, the Wild are in the playoffs this year. St. Louis, Chicago, Dallas made it into the playoffs this year. I mean, it's gonna be a tough division for anyone, even for Chicago and St. Louis going forward. So,
Well, the
um,
Central Division had the most teams in the playoffs, right? Or
yeah,
no, yeah,
yeah, we had five.
yeah, no. Atlantic and Metropolitan both had four,
Yep,
and Pacific
Pacific
only had the
three.
three. So,
Yep,
Mhm.
yeah, and I can only see that trend continuing, at least for the next couple years. And it would be good for Nashville to get back to the playoffs. And if he's able to do what their press release and what they're saying that he wants to be able to do in Nashville, I could see them getting in there. Once here coming up soon, but it's going to be really hard for them especially with the roster that they have, um, to become a constant contender in the Central. I think. Um, I mean, that's going to be hard for anyone to do. I don't. Even for, like I said, even for the Chicago's and the St. Louis's, it's going to be hard for them to do with how loaded it is right now.
speaking of St. Louis, today they re-signed Ken Hitchcock to a one-year deal, and they let go of two of their assistants, Gary Agnew and Corey Hirsch. So obviously they were not happy with the coaching as a whole, but Hitchcock is a winner in the past, and it seems like everybody in St. Louis has been pretty happy with what he's done regular season-wise. Obviously, they had some bad luck this year in the first round of the playoffs, going up against a tough Chicago team,
Hmm.
having injuries to Backus, and just overall finishing the season with a lot of injuries and a lot of guys that weren't 100% in the playoffs. But when you only sign a coach to a one-year deal, it feels like something where you got to win now, or what, you break up that team. That team's still, in my opinion, too young, and with an open window for a couple more years to potentially win a cup. So why would they only give him a one-year deal and basically say this is your chance? Otherwise, we're bringing somebody else in because he's only been there for 2 years.
Yeah. I I was surprised by that 1 year deal as well. I figured they would lock him up for at least 2 or 3, if not possibly even 4. 4 was maybe kind of reaching it, but 2 or 3 for sure. Like you said, the team that they have now is going to be scary, especially for this Blackhawks fan for years to come. They have the talent, they have the ability. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Ryan Miller around, but if they keep Ryan Miller around, holy shit, that's going to be a tough team to beat on any given night. And Ken Hitchcock definitely has the ability to take them to the next level. I don't know how the Hawks were really. I don't know how the Hawks were able to really get past them this year. Even I'm still kind of surprised we were able to survive that first round matchup with them. And like I, yeah, it's kind of like you said. They're giving him a 1 year contract and kind of basically saying, either you win with this team now, or obviously you're not good enough for us. And that's kind of a tough deal for him to take because, like you said,
Well, another thing that's interesting about their team, which made me wonder about this, is they have their entire defense locked up for next year.
yes, they
So
do.
that's great. But on the forwards, they're going to lose, they might lose Derek Roy, Patrick Berglund, Steve Ott, Brendan Morrow, Vladimir Sabatka. All of those guys are going to be either restricted or unrestricted free agents. Same with Keith DeCoin, who doesn't really play that much, but Jaden Swartz is a restricted free agent, who I'm sure they're probably going to match or probably keep that one. But they're losing a bunch of guys. They lost Chris Stewart in that trade for Miller.
Yeah,
Who are they
but
going to bring in? I mean, they got a
I,
lot of work to do. They're going to have a lot of money to spend. And a lot of people are saying they're going to go after Statsny, but
I don't think they could get Statsny.
I
And
mean, you think it's just because they're going to
it's
lose a couple of their defensemen after next season. So Hitchcock being the defensive coach, then they're like, well, we can bank on him for next season, keeping that defense together and hopefully keeping Ryan Miller. So that'll be the backbone of our team. But when you only have Backus, Oshie, Steen, you still need depth at forward. You can't compete in this league without, you
here,
know,
here's the
little.
thing, though. After the Hawks won it last year, we lost Boland and we lost, we lost, you know, a lot of key role player guys. I mean, we kept Hosa, Sharp, Tays, Keith, and Seabrook. Really, our five main core, I guess. And we kept some other lower level guys as well. But like Bickle, that was a big one, I guess, for us, especially so far in the playoffs this year. Um, but I think what we're gonna see with the salary cap nowadays, though, at least from my experience watching the Hawks and seeing how they've been able to do it and compete, is you're gonna lock up your key players, and then you're going to fill in those role position guys almost every year or every other year, and you're going to do your best to scout the best guys and bring them in on that kind of basis, and just keep your core locked up. And I think that's kind of what St. Louis has. They have the people locked up that I think that they really need to keep their core around, especially when you look at their defense, and they're sure they don't have very many forwards, but they have their key ones locked up for now. And if they're able to find those plugs like the Hawks have been able to do, then they're going to be able to compete.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm kind of curious what their game plan is.
I
So,
Yeah, I was very curious after the Hawks blew up the team in 2010, basically, who they were going to keep. And then I was very curious last year, too, who we were going to be able to keep. And, I mean, just a few years later after 2010, and then even this year, it looks like we might be able to go on another cup run. So I think that's going to be the model nowadays.
well, John Davidson, their president, and I think I'm not sure, is he general manager too? I know he's done some fine work before, so I guess you just have to have faith that he knows what he's doing. But speaking of general managers, Ron Hextall was promoted to GM in Philly, and Paul Holmgren has been moved to president. which I don't know how much that's going to change things for them, because if he still has the final say in things, then I'm curious what all Hextall's power is going to be. Obviously, Hextall was a great player for Philadelphia, and he's been with Los Angeles the last few years under Dean Lombardi as assistant general manager. So he's had some time to watch a team develop into a champion there. And he's going into a situation in Philadelphia that's a lot better than what he went into with LA, because when he came to LA as assistant general manager, LA was not good. And now he's moving into a situation where you already have a lot of proven commodities in Claude Giroux, Wayne Simmons, and Shen. And then on the defense, though, that's been kind of a problem for them. So do you think that this is something that Philadelphia did just to appease the fans more so, or because they really felt that Hextall is going to be a better GM than Holmgren? And what do you think Holmgren's role as president is going to be for that team? And do you think it'll cause any kind of strife in the management as far as power struggle goes?
Well, I think they promoted Holmgren to president because, like, I don't know, he hasn't really been the best GM. Like, he's got all of these pieces, and he isn't really giving these pieces, like, um, I guess, other pieces to excel. Like, you can't just have superstars. You need people to help out the superstars. Like, Crosby has Chris Kunitz, and Malkin has James Neal, and James Neal has turned into a superstar because he plays with Malkin. And I don't know, it's just like you can't just load your team up with like superstars and then scrubs. You need some like in between guys. And then like
Well,
their
aside from
defense.
on defense, who do you think is a scrub on Philly?
What?
Who do you think is the scrubs on Philly that you're talking about? Because I think their forward depth is one of the best in the NHL. I mean, they led the league with 720 goal scorers. Their defense has been their problem all year. So are you just
Yeah, I
saying
guess
their
I guess
scrubby
that is what
defense
I'm
is the
talking
problem?
about, bro. Like I guess I am talking about their defense. Because yeah, their defense is atrocious. It's one of the worst defensive cores in the league. It's horrible. I don't
Yep.
know. And just like they need to stop running goaltenders out of town.
Well,
Like
they
I
have
hope
Steve
Steve
Mason
Mason
locked
stays.
up for 3 more years.
Yeah.
But is Steve Mason really going to be their goaltender?
With the way he played this year, yes. They have faith in him now. The fans have faith in him. The team seems to have faith in him, and he's healthy. He lost 20 pounds, I think, before the season started to get back into shape and to be more flexible and agile. And he's been quicker, and he's been better, and he supplanted Ray Emery as the #1 starter, and then he got that extension, I believe, because he's going from 1.5 this year to 4.1 million next year for the next 3 years. And Ray Emery is an unrestricted free agent. They haven't made him an offer, so
I
I'm
wouldn't.
guessing Emery's gone, and
Yeah.
Steve Mason is going to be their goalie for the next 3 years. I'm more so. I mean, like I said, they had 720 goal scorers. Their front line is good, obviously with Giroux. Their second line's good. Their forwards in general are good. There's not a whole lot of good free agents in the defensive market this year.
No.
I don't know how much of a difference Hextall is going to make this season with what is available out there, which makes you wonder if fans are going to question this next season when they come up to the same problem. They're going to look at the team and say, "Well, our defense didn't really get better." But if you look at the market, there's not a lot out there for him to even pick up. So it's kind of a weird move to make right now. But at the same time, I guess instead they have a new GM doing it that the fans love. Maybe they'll say, you know what, it's his first year as GM, instead of Paul Holmgren, who, if he has the same problem next year, they're like, they want his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and I saw a lot of fans talking about how they were worried about Hextall getting called to go somewhere else. soon if he didn't get the job in Philly this year. So maybe it was kind of one of those moves too to ensure that he did stay in Philly and that they wanted to keep him there instead of letting him go somewhere else, kind of thing.
Well, that was the big news today in management changes and things like that. I don't know if you guys. I don't really have a lot else to talk about. Obviously, it's a very light day in hockey.
Very
Not a lot of
light day.
games, not a lot of free agent movements yet, and aside from those signings, like I said, World Championships start tomorrow, so that should be exciting. The U.S. is playing in a division that I think is actually fairly easy, even though our roster is terrible. I think Canada is probably going to be the favorite, along with Russia, because I believe Ovechkin's playing for Russia at least, and they got some other guys playing for them too that should help. And I think that Russia just wants to go out and prove that they just had a bad Olympics, and so maybe even though it's the World Championship and there's not as tough a competition, I think it's kind of a point of pride, especially since they're playing in Belarus, so it's close to them. I don't know how often you guys follow the World Championship or not, but I always love seeing international play. But really, the U.S. roster this year is garbage. So
Yeah, most of the good USA players are still, in the playoffs.
yeah,
Yep.
or banged up. I mean, Backus obviously needed some time to recover, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised Jack Johnson didn't go, since he usually goes to these, and unless something was hurting with him, I would have been nice to see him play because he didn't play in the Olympics.
I haven't heard anything about him being banged up one way or the other. So
Neither did I, and that's why I'm curious, because he's played so many times in international play on all different levels, and I know
Mhm.
that he was upset he didn't make the Olympics, so I'm curious why he didn't agree to go play in the World Championship. Because he's good on the big ice. Obviously, he can skate.
Oh yes.
I think, in other news, Alex Steen's dad, Thomas, got arrested in Winnipeg, which is kind of, that
Do,
sucks.
do you know for what?
I think it was for assault or something like that.
Oh Jesus.
Oh
He used to
man.
play for Winnipeg back in the day. He played with Solani back in the early 90s. Um, I know that Ryan, I think, just want to talk about the new ice projections that they do before games.
Yeah. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
they basically
Montreal.
use the ice as a huge screen.
Yeah. Jeez. Um, I watched. There was one posted this morning about what they did in Minnesota on the ice before the game started, and I was basically in awe. And I know that Montreal has done this before, where they basically light a fire at the middle of their ice, and it spreads out to cover the ice, which is a really cool effect. And I was thinking about this pretty much all day today, and I know that the NHL lately has been kind of, especially during the regular season, for those small market teams, has been dealing with the issue that now that HD TV is in so many homes and you can actually follow the puck on your TV at home, it's been kind of getting hard to convince some people to go to the games because back in the day when you had your standard def TV, you couldn't see the puck um, really all that well. It was kind of one of those things that you had to see in person in order to get the full effect. So I think this could be one of those extra little incentives to try to get people to help try to get people in the seats, because if you could have something like that on an everyday basis to help build up the show and the whole mystique of the stadium atmosphere, I just think that would be awesome to see.
Well,
Uh,
the Kings do that every single game.
do they?
Yeah, but obviously the Kings have one of the better media departments. I mean, Los
Well,
Angeles.
except for Cartman, but you know,
Well, that's also been something that's kind of become a tradition in the last 15 years. That's
yeah,
not. I mean, a lot of fans don't necessarily like it that much, but at the same time, it's just become a tradition. And Matt and Trey from South Park are Kings fans. They, graciously let them do that. I don't think they even necessarily charge them for it.
yeah.
So,
I
uh, the thing is, the Kings obviously in Los Angeles, you have a lot of great media and entertainment. So they've been pushing that really hard for a couple years now before Kings and Lakers games because obviously fans love it, but it's hard to do that, change it up every game. Like I've been to, games where it's the exact same thing as the game before, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I could see that not really changing that much, like that like pre-show not changing all that much over the course of a season, if really at all. But the fact that if you go to a game and you see that and you know that they're not showing it on TV, it's just like one of those little extra things where you might go home and talk to your friends and be like, "Hey, did you see that on TV? Because that was pretty awesome." And then they'll be like, "No." And then you'll be like, all right, you have to go to a game and see this because it blew me away. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. Um, I don't really think the NHL is struggling to sell tickets. It's a growing game.
No, only in a couple markets.
It's a growing game, and it's really been awesome to see it take off over these last few years. Um, but I don't know. I feel like it's something that just a little extra to make it just that much more worth it to help drive the season ticket sales and drive the making it. I think Bettman said that it used to be a game that you had to see in person, and one of those you have to see it live kind of things. And I think it's another this little projection on the ice thing before a game starts can be one of those little things that the NHL can do to help bring back that feeling where you absolutely have to be there to experience it. Um, Obviously, it's not all that big in the scope of a game because it's not actually part of the game. But coming down to it, the stadium experience is a big sale to fans. So, at least in my book.
Well, I can't necessarily agree with you because I love the game and I go for the game itself. But I kind of wonder sometimes too if that could be something, especially I mean here in Los Angeles and Anaheim, people are notorious for being late because of traffic. So I don't know how much that would necessarily matter to a market like this.
That's a
Because
good
people,
point.
I mean, people get out of work and they can barely make a game on time just because of traffic anyway. So it'd be like, well, I don't necessarily go for that because I'm gonna end up showing up halfway through the first anyway once I find parking.
That's a good point. That's something I didn't consider at all.
Maybe
Damn.
if they like did better. Well, you only have so much time during intermission because of Zamboni and promotional things, but
Yeah.
maybe it'd be something that'd be nice to do. I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't really
know.
know what else you can do during the games as far as that goes. I know that nowadays you have a lot of in-stadium promotional guys, aside from just like the Ice Girls, which
Yeah.
are more popular. Still, not every team has those, but you have those, and then at least around here, the Kings and Ducks have in-stadium people like MCs running around with a microphone, giving out prizes and doing stuff like that, which seems to be doing well. So, but yeah, there definitely could be more things to draw people to games. But once again, hockey's still the best in-person sport to watch, in my opinion.
I would agree with
We're all
that.
biased, we're all hockey fans, but I love sports overall as well. And even though maybe football is my second favorite sport, I can't go to a football game unless I get a group of people to go when we tailgate and just it's a good time just going with friends. Football's so terrible in person. Just a whole
What?
lot of TV timeouts and things like that. In basketball is okay in person because it's exciting and there's a lot of crowd interaction, but nothing really beats hockey.
I've actually had a lot of fun at the football games I've gone to. Like, I go with Patriots games because my uncle has season tickets, and usually he sits with his friends, so it was like me and my dad or me and my sister sit somewhere else, like in his seats, and like we've always had a lot of fun, but usually like it's because like they're winning, I guess. And the tailgating's great 'cause Uncle Steve works at a seafood distributor, so he gets like lobster and shrimp and all that stuff for like crazy discount. So he gets like we have like lobster for tailgating, and it's kind of fun. But I don't know. I really like football as a like sport to be in there for. But I guess it's also like pit games are fun. Like college football is a lot of fun to go to. So I don't know. But hockey is definitely the best in person sport. I would agree.
I would agree.
You guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I feel like I've talked way too much this podcast, so it's up to you guys.
Well, that's kind of what you do on a podcast. You talk way too much. Not you, just in general. We all do.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I mean, like I said, it's been a pretty light day in the hockey world. So, not a lot to talk about. If you guys don't have anything else, we'll just wrap it up here.
Yeah. I'm good.
All right. Well, tomorrow night, obviously, we have the Kings and Ducks playing Game 3, which is in Los Angeles after the Kings took a 2-0 lead, winning both games in Anaheim. So that's going to be a huge game for Anaheim. If they don't win that, they're pretty much done. Because I know we watched the Kings already come back from a 3-0 this year, but the odds of that happening 2 series in a row are pretty astronomical. And we also have Game 4 of the Montreal-Boston series, which I think is going to be, even though I'm a Kings fan, I think that game might be more exciting because I personally think the Kings are probably going to win that game. So I think that I'm more curious to see if Boston, especially being the #1 seed and President Trophy winner, is going to go down 3-1, because that would be huge.
Yep.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, the Hawks won the cup last year from the President's Trophies, so it's kind of due for the President's Trophy winner to lose again. You know what I mean?
Is that just wishful thinking? Like, man, I really hope Boston doesn't make it to the finals because I don't want to play them again this year.
That really is just wishful thinking. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I'm rooting for whoever would give the Hawks home ice advantage whenever we would play them if we were to get that far. So that means I want Montreal to win.
What is home ice advantage again? I can't remember. I don't think we've had it in. Yeah, we had it last year against the Sharks, but aside from that, we didn't have home ice the entire time we won our championship 2 years ago, and we're not going to have it at all unless somehow we and Minnesota win. We'll have it against Minnesota, but there's nobody in the East I don't think that we're going to take home ice from either if Pittsburgh and Boston go. So.
Well, you guys don't need it. You've got Quick. That basically is home ice advantage for you, having him. Because he can take any game anywhere.
It is a nice luxury to have.
It really is.
I think with the hype that he gets and what he's done the last couple years, it's almost like he's now just in the heads of people. They're like, oh, it's playoffs. Oh, now Quick's playing well. And then they start doing things that maybe they shouldn't all the time. And I think that sometimes some of the stuff that he does and some of the saves he make are helped by the fact that people just don't seem to play as well against him in the playoffs because it's just all mental.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a high possibility for that to be true.
It's kind of like when Patrick Waugh used to just go off in the playoffs back in the day. I'm sure all of you young people remember him. I'm going to just pretend that I'm not old. Anyway, Patrick Waugh is the greatest playoff goalie of all time, and he would just get into the heads of people,
Hmm.
and just nobody could get anything by him. He has, I think he still holds the record for most career playoff wins, and probably I think he's second to Brodeur in shutouts, but he also played in a different time when you didn't have as many um, shutouts just in general in the early '80s and things like that. But I can't remember anybody else besides Wall getting into people's head or seeming to, or maybe I'm just biased, but Quick has that mental edge, I think. Yeah, Patrick Waugh, this is ridiculous. Even though Brodeur has the most victories of all time in regular season, Patrick Waugh has 151 playoff victories.
Jeez.
Brodeur is second with 113.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, he was
No, that
just one of
dude,
those guys.
not a legend or anything at all.
No, no, no. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna wrap it up here because we're at an hour now.
All right.
But I know tonight was slow. We didn't really get a lot of people asking questions or doing other things, but I totally understand when there's not a lot of hockey on. But
Yeah.
for anybody that ends up catching this anyway, I just want to take a shout out to this coming week. We got the D4 show on Friday with the four Daves, including myself. And I think, Brittany, you got a show tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, our hockey after hour.
And who's that?
With
Where they talk about everything but hockey.
Yes.
yeah, it's the We Dick Around for an Hour podcast. Well, actually, last time we had Josh J. Eddington as a guest, and he was a good guest. We talked mostly about hockey the whole time. It was kind of
Was he
crazy.
using lots of Google sound effects?
What?
I said, was he using lots of Google sound effects?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no, I thought that was his thing. Like, he just does that all the time. Anyway.
No, we actually just talked hockey for almost the whole podcast. It was weird.
All right.
But then we ended up talking about pizza for a little bit because Ron. But yeah, I think Andrew Paddock is coming back. It's gonna be me, Ron, and Andrew, and maybe a guest because Ben is in full finals week mode.
Okay. Ryan,
And
are
then
you gonna jump in on anybody else's this week?
I do not know. I don't think so. I'm headed to Michigan to visit my fiance this weekend.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Sounds like fun.
She's
All
going
right.
gift shopping, so
Ooh,
should be a
even
blast.
more fun.
Yeah.
Woo. No, I hope that you have a good time. Stay safe.
We will. So.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get off here, and I will talk to you guys later. You have a good night.
You too.
you too.